all that, but you're always trying to get them on the right path of wisdom and get them off the path of foolishness. Your best friends need to be those that's on the right path. Okay. Lazy people, we talked about the sluggard. It talks about lazy, has nothing, laziness. Proverbs has nothing good to say about laziness. Even the feeble ants are more diligent than the sluggard. It is harmful to sleep when there is work to do. One of these days, a lazy person will be forced to work to get something to eat. Lazy people can think up many excuses not to work, and nothing anybody says will do them any good. Okay. I was seeing a documentary yesterday a little bit. Basically, a country that was used to live in a certain way after the war came in, then they were forced. A lot of their people didn't even know the things that their government had done and all to a certain race of people, but they were unaware of it. And some wasn't even in support of their government they had before their government surrendered, but yet all of them were thrown in together, and they were forced to bury a lot of the dead that their government had killed, prisoners they had, and they had to rebuild and reconstruct their nation. And how life suddenly changed, for them. And even in our own nation, as we see things moving forward, they're really moving backwards. And I think there's going to be looks like probably a big rude awakening for a lot of Americans eventually, one day. And good work ethic is going to be required to survive. We need a proper view of wealth. Proverbs talks about that. The book of Proverbs issues a number of stern warnings about the subject. Wealth cannot give you peace or wisdom, but it can create pride and trouble and friends who will not last. You should fear God and share with others what God gives to you. Watch out when somebody promises to make you rich in a hurry, because those schemes backfire and leave you poor. The way to gain wealth is through hard work and faithfulness to the Lord. Okay, so a proper view of wealth. And then what are you going to do with it? The Bible talks in Proverbs about truth. Buy the truth, do not sell it, is the advice of Proverbs 23:23. Lot sold the truth for a home in the city, and Esau sold the truth for a mess of pottage. King Saul sold the truth for the support of the people. Judas sold the truth for 30 pieces of silver. And Pilate sold the truth for the approval of the crowd. And it's not worth it. Respect the truth. And people are selling out the truth today for the lie. And they're believing the lie, but eventually they're going to have to answer to the truth. Proverbs talks about strong drink. It warns against the sin of drunkenness. Strong drink is a mocker. It promises one thing but gives another. Instead of wealth, it gives poverty. Instead of pleasure, it gives misery. For a short time, the drinker feels good, but then things start to change. Alcoholics can be saved and changed by the grace of God. Must be careful not to cause others to stumble because of the things that we do. And that would be one of those things. Okay? And so it talks about that subject as well. Handling disputes. The time to stop a dispute is when it begins. As much as possible, do not let arguments get started. Some people contribute to peace, others contribute to war. And isn't that funny how some people are trying to bring a peaceful resolution to situations, where others are trying to always add fuel to it, keep something going, you know. And there are some people that nobody can get along with, okay? Some people just nobody can get along with. And God blesses the peacemakers. So the person that's on the path of wisdom, God will direct that person that's peaceful, and He'll use that person to make peace. Okay. It also talks about flattery. Sincere praise can be an encouragement, but flattery only does harm. Beware the kisses of an enemy. There are times when flattery may seem the only way to save a friendship, but afterward you will regret it. The flatterer is like a hunter who spreads his net, so be on your guard. So you've known people that will tell you maybe what they think you might want to hear just to flatter you, get something from you, something out of you. So just be honest and sincere. You know, be kind. Okay. Flattery then is manipulation. So we're talking about people that manipulate other people. And one of the key tools that they use is flattery to do that. So sometimes, like a man, to get the attention of a young lady will flatter her, you know, flatter her, and what his thinking is, okay, it's all about him. It's not about her really, okay. And that can happen in other aspects as well. Sometimes people will flatter you just to get you to do something for them, okay. Well, we all need to be careful of that. Now, how many grandkids that went to their grandparents, or kids, kids will come to their parents and say, Daddy, I love you so much. Well, right there, what does that tell me?
They want something.
They want something, okay. And so that's it. Well, it's sort of cute, I guess, when they're little and they're growing up, but then when they get to adulthood, if they become professionals at it, then there's trouble. Bribery erodes the very foundation of the law and of the land. Government is corrupted by bribery, and must be hated as an enemy. It perverts justice. How many people can be bought off? How many politicians can be bought off? How many judges can be bought off? Sadly, how many pastors can be bought off? It perverts justice, provides offices for dishonest people, purchases favors, and pacifies people without solving problems. The person whose integrity is for sale is not fit to govern. The person whose integrity is for sale is not fit to govern. All right, we better elect everybody know just about then, right? We got a serious situation on our hands.
Sanctuary city. Sanctuary city.
Yeah. Respect in the home, and Proverbs has a lot to talk about the home, family. Talks about when children walk in wisdom, they bring joy to their parents. It's tragic when children do not respect their parents, when they speak evil of them, waste their money with the wrong friends, and rob their parents. I've seen all these things. I've counseled families, ministered to families that have experienced within that. Early discipline helps a child learn to respect parental authority and to appreciate parental love. So a lot of good subjects. Teaches how to live. Very good. If you just took your kids and grandkids and all and read to them Proverbs, it'd be a wonderful thing for them to learn, to help them along life's way and life's journey. Okay? Ecclesiastes. Some will pronounce it Ecclesiastes. So Ecclesiastes. Here the question is asked, can a fabulously wealthy and wise king ruling over a splendid empire 10 centuries BC find true peace and purpose in life? Can he find these treasures, peace? Can you find peace and purpose in life apart from God? Apart from God. And no person will find eternal peace and purpose in life apart from God. So this is Solomon's great search. Chapters 1 through 10 record the attempts involved, while the final 2 chapters provide the answer. Okay, so Ecclesiastes, we need to understand, he's talking about under the sun, okay, in this life, okay, in this world. And then, okay, he's showing a pursuit of peace and purpose in life and trying to pursue happiness and all that, okay, when it's pursued apart from God, okay, and then he's ultimately going to come to the conclusion that it, of course, it can be found, okay, without. And we have to be careful about certain doctrines and that people would come up to as they would try to seek peace or purpose in this life outside of God. Okay, and Ecclesiastes talks about fatalism, pessimism, materialism, even atheism. Okay, but these are subjects covered in this, and what God gives us a perspective on people who think this way. Okay, and a lot of people live like this. They have a life of fatalism, a life of pessimism. They live in materialism. Today we have many angry atheists. Okay. The key words in Ecclesiastes are man, labor, under the sun, vanity. The book of Ecclesiastes may be summarized by 2 apt statements, one made by a former well-known agnostic trial lawyer and the other by a sewer worker in Chicago. Both statements were given in response to a question concerning their personal philosophy of life. There's a statement in the Bible which pretty well summarizes my life. It says, "We have toiled all night and have taken nothing." Clarence Darrow. "I dig the ditch to get the money, to buy the food, to get the strength to dig the ditch." Cook County sewer employee. Apart from Proverbs, Ecclesiastes is probably the most important Old Testament book for young people to read. It answers their many questions. Can I find happiness in sex or sports or silver, in popularity and prestige or power, in educational degrees or drugs? And the answer to all these is no. So, and that's through every generation. There's something comes along. Is this going to provide me happiness? So if somebody buys a new car, they're happy for a month. Car payment comes due. Wow. They're not as happy as they were a month ago. Okay. I knew it was coming. So they try to put on a good face about it, and before long they say, how long do I got to pay on this thing? And then it starts wearing out, before they even got it paid off, okay? So it doesn't bring lasting happiness, okay? So people maybe look for a relationship. Man, if I just found somebody I can marry, and they don't realize all the problems that's going to cause. That's a whole new, different life, and you got to work through several things. Okay, so that's not another person's not gonna, do everything that you need. Only what God can do. In Ecclesiastes, the writer calls himself the preacher, which means one who calls an assembly and discusses a topic. The Greek word for assembly is ecclesia. The New Testament word for church, and the book's title comes from this word. As the wisest, wealthiest, and most powerful man of his day, Solomon certainly had the opportunity and resources to do the things mentioned in Ecclesiastes. In this book, Solomon seeks to answer the question, is life worth living? First, he states the problem and argues for the negative, chapters 1 and 2. Then he examines the problem from many different angles and argues for the positive. He concludes that life is worth living if you put God first and obey His Word. Called a pessimistic book, Ecclesiastes is actually realistic. Solomon looked at life and death, success and failure, time and events, and wrote some wise counsel about how to make a meaningful life in a world of contradictions and seeming futility. When viewed apart from God, under the sun, life is indeed vanity, futile, empty. But when you live for Christ, life is never in vain. 6 times Solomon advises you to enjoy life now and be grateful for God's gifts. This is not the pleasure-seeking philosophy of the Epicurean, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die, but the joyful outlook of the believer who accepts life as God's gift to enjoy and employ for His glory. The Bible talks about all things are the gifts of God to enjoy those things, your children, your relationships, your church family, the things that you have, okay, are to be enjoyed in the right perspective and the right way for God. Okay, so life under the sun. If God is not involved in my life, then what? When you see that in Ecclesiastes, under the sun, okay, when God's not involved in my life, then what? What advantages work? Ecclesiastes 1:3. Nothing new. 1:9. All deeds are vanity. 1:14. The fruit of labor is hated. 2:18. Man is mortal under the sun. 6:12. Pleasure is temporary under the sun. Man cannot discover God's work. 8:17. All men die. 9:3. Life will cease. 12:2. Apart from God, under the sun, we're just thinking, in terms here, and all those things. But it's different. That's sun, S-U-N, under the sun, so in this life, in this world. But what changes, a lot changes when we're under the sun, S-O-N. God the Son, okay? So, Ecclesiastes deals, as we say, with fatalism, pessimism, materialism, atheism. And Ecclesiastes is the inspired record of man giving his conclusions about life as it exists under the sun. That is a worldview which makes no practical provision for God. Emptiness, vanity, it's found under the sun. Emptiness, vanity is found without God, apart from God. So it's a very important book when understood properly in the Word of God. Man has some problems, chapters 1 and 2. The quest, he's seeking fulfillment. Can I be fulfilled without God? It's not going to last. The Bible says sin has its season, okay, but it all comes crashing down, okay. It all comes to an abrupt end. You know, how many concerts can you go to before, you know, and feel better about life and about yourself before finally, that don't do for me what it used to do, you know. How many times can you go out to eat before you say, well, you know, it's not eternally satisfying. I have to go eat again. So all those things, he tries it all. He had the money to try it all, you know, and entertainment, everything you can think of, sex, you know. So apart from God, all these things are futile. Everything is futile. Generations come and go. But it just seems like nothing ever changes, really. The sun rises and sets, the wind twists back and forth, but neither seem to get any place or accomplish any purpose. You just see this mindset that we can get into. And even as Christians, when we forget God, God has an eternal plan, an eternal purpose. We can get, I mean, what's the use? You ever feel like some days just not getting up? You know, well, you felt like Solomon. Okay, when we get in the mindset of what am I going to accomplish? When you look at it in the world sense, that's the way we're going to feel. But you look in it in the sense that we're always working unto the Lord, we're always living unto the Lord. Then every moment is precious. Everything you do has value. The river runs into the sea, but the sea is never full. The water returns again to the rivers and flows again to the sea. Monotony. Life's monotony. See? He's feeling all these things. No man seems satisfied regardless of what he had seen or heard. History just life, and it just all repeats itself. 100 years from now, everything will have been forgotten regardless of what occurs today. So you say, hey, who's going to even know I existed 100 years from now? You know, if they find my tombstone, you know, maybe covered up somewhere, they find it, who's this person, you know? Nobody, you know, was my life amount to anything? That's all under the sun type thinking. Say, but to God it has value. To God it means something. To God it's always going to be reserved. Human wisdom. For their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird. They lay wait for their own blood. They lurk privately for their own lives. That's spoken of. So he's seeking fulfillment in human wisdom. That doesn't satisfy. He seeks it in pleasure. Doesn't satisfy. Alcohol. I sought in my heart to give myself unto wine. Ecclesiastes 2:3. Didn't do it. I'm going to build. How about that? Ecclesiastes 2:4. I made for myself great works. I build houses. Man, see something I built and laugh. Still just didn't bring it. Beautiful gardens and parks. Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 4 through 6. He indulged himself in comforts and what I got servants and maidens and had servants born in my house. Chapter 2, verse 7. Massive wealth. I gathered to me also silver and gold and the peculiar treasure of kings and of the provinces. He had a great big reputation. He was well known internationally. And 1 Kings chapter 10 verse 6 and 7 speaks of that. Literature, natural science, military power. He was at the top of his game. Had many chariots, horsemen, music. Gathered me also silver and gold and peculiar treasure of kings and of the provinces. I got me men singers and women singers and the lights of the sons of men as musical instruments, and that of all sorts. Breeded cattle and sheep. So, just growing in wealth.